The man sat alone in the corner of the bustling airport café, his posture calm but heavy, as if years of weightless privilege had somehow turned into something no one could see. People brushed past him, eyes fixed on their phones, their flights, their own urgencies, yet no one noticed the quiet figure with the silver-streaked hair, the traveler whose tailored gray coat couldn't hide the exhaustion beneath it. Everyone simply assumed he was another tired foreigner passing through. No one cared that the world knew his name except the room he sat in. No one cared that beneath that calm, distant stare was a Japanese billionaire who had spent half his life trying to forget what loneliness felt like. But today, for the first time in decades, it clung to him like a shadow he couldn't shake off. That if you believe that kindness and second chances still matter in this world, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Hearts Corner so more stories like this can reach someone who needs hope today. He kept his gaze low, tracing the rim of the untouched cup of tea in front of him. It had grown cold, the steam long vanished, but he didn't call anyone to replace it. He didn't need the warmth. He needed something far deeper than heat. All around him, people chatted, laughed, announced their orders, and hurried to their gates. No one saw the quiet tremor in his breath or the subtle stiffness in his hands, the kind that came only after a lifetime of holding on too tightly to things that never mattered and losing the ones that did. His name was Kaido Sakamura, silent architect of one of Asia's largest tech empires, once a media obsession, once a symbol of ruthless brilliance, yet now just another forgotten face in a crowded place that didn't know his worth or his wounds. He had come to this airport not for a flight, but for a moment of stillness he couldn't find anywhere else. Ever since losing his wife 2 years earlier, Kaido found himself wandering through places where no one recognized him. He didn't want cameras. He didn't want investors. He didn't want the noise of wealth that echoed in every boardroom. He wanted one day, just one day, where he could be human again, yet somehow being invisible hurt more than being known. People had worshipped his fortune, but no one cared for the man beneath it anymore. That realization burned, not because he needed attention, but because it reminded him of his wife, the only person who had ever seen him for who he was before he became everything the world wanted him to be. His eyes softened as he imagined her voice again, gentle, warm, always grounding him in ways success never could. She had always told him that kindness came back in unexpected moments, that no matter how wealthy or powerful someone became, everyone still needed to be seen. But since her passing, the world felt cold, and he wondered if her words had only been a romantic illusion carried by her optimism. Today, sitting alone in that cafe, he felt more forgotten than ever. He reached into his coat and pulled out her old travel charm, a tiny wooden amulet she once carried on every trip, one she had asked him to keep close even after she was gone. He ran his thumb across it, holding on to something familiar in a world that no longer felt like his he sat there lost in memories. A waitress approached the table next to his, serving a group of hurried travelers who barely acknowledged her. She repeated their orders, smiled politely, and walked away unnoticed. When she turned to head back to the counter, her eyes drifted to him. He didn't look special, just an older man with tired eyes and a forgotten cup of tea, but something pulled her attention toward him anyway. Perhaps it was the loneliness in his posture or the heaviness in the way he held himself. She hesitated, observing him for a moment longer, sensing a quiet story he wasn't saying. Her name was Hannah, a young woman in her mid-20s working double shifts to support her mother and younger brother. Life had not been kind to her lately. Her father had passed away last year, leaving behind debt and responsibilities that forced her to give up her studies. She worked long hours, often without rest, but she carried a softness in her that the world had not been able to take away. Even when exhausted, she treated every stranger with warmth, believing that her simple kindness might be the only good thing someone experienced that day. As she walked past Kaido's table, she noticed the amulet in his hand. Her breath caught slightly, not because she recognized him, but because she had seen that same charm before. Her grandmother used to carry one, and she had taught Hannah a few phrases of Japanese when she was young. Without thinking, she gently stepped closer and spoke softly, asking him in simple Japanese if he wanted his tea reheated. The sound of his native language, a sound he hadn't expected to hear in this foreign airport, made Kaido freeze. His grip tightened, his eyes widening in disbelief as he lifted his head for the first time since he sat down. The world around him blurred for a moment, replaced by the memory of his wife calling his name in the same soft tone. Hannah didn't realize the impact her words had on him. She only saw the sudden emotion flicker in his eyes, a mixture of shock and gratitude she couldn't quite understand. She repeated herself, this time more gently, and he finally nodded. She took the cup, her movements careful, as if she instinctively understood that he needed patience more than service. When she returned with the warm tea, she placed it before him with a quiet smile. But instead of walking away, she paused. She felt something in him, something familiar, like the silent grief she herself carried. She asked him in English if he was okay. He didn't answer immediately. He hadn't been asked that in a long time, not by someone who meant it. Her sincerity broke open a part of him he had kept locked for too long. He told her, haltingly, that he had lost someone he loved deeply, someone who used to speak to him just the way she did. Hannah's eyes softened with empathy. She told him she understood loss, that sometimes life felt like it moved on without you, leaving your heart stranded in the past. For the first time in 2 years, Kaido felt seen, that he realized that this young woman had no idea who he was. She wasn't being kind to a billionaire. She wasn't pretending to care because of his name or influence. She was simply being human. And that kind of kindness, the rare, unfiltered kind, felt like a balm he didn't know he needed. She offered to sit for a moment, explaining she was on her short break and wanted to keep him company if he didn't mind. He nodded gratefully. They sat together in quiet understanding. She told him about her family, her dreams, her struggles. He listened, deeply moved by the resilience in her voice. She spoke of how she worked every day hoping her brother could stay in school, hoping her mother could rest soon, hoping kindness didn't disappear from the world even when life made people hard. He realized how strong she truly was, not because she shouted her pain, but because she carried it with grace. Moved beyond words, Kaido reached for his wallet, not to tip her, but to show her something personal. He took out a small photograph of his wife, the two of them smiling as if life had paused just for them. Hannah held the picture gently, her eyes glistening with compassion. She said his wife looked kind, warm, someone who probably believed in people the way Hannah did. That moment, simple yet profound, stirred something deep within him, that he felt the walls he had built around himself slowly crumble. Before he left, he thanked her in Japanese, telling her she reminded him of the goodness in the world his wife always believed in. Hannah bowed lightly, smiling, unaware of how deeply she had touched a stranger's heart. When Kaido walked out of the cafe, he felt lighter, as if her kindness had carried some of his grief away with her. What Hannah didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that Kaido Sakamura owned one of the largest humanitarian foundations in Asia, a foundation quietly funding hospitals, schools, and relief programs worldwide. But since his wife's passing, he had stopped overseeing it personally. He had withdrawn from everything that once mattered. Until today. A week later, the airport cafe received an unexpected letter. It wasn't addressed to the staff collectively. It was written for Hannah. Attached to it was a scholarship offer from a major international foundation, covering her studies, her brother's education, and financial support for her family. At first, she thought it was a mistake. But inside the envelope was a small wooden amulet, the same travel charm she had seen in the stranger's hands. Under it were words written in Japanese, translated below in English. Your kindness brought me back to life. Thank you for seeing the man no one else saw. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she held the charm, realizing the truth. The quiet stranger she had comforted was a billionaire whose name she had heard only in the news. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that kindness had come full circle, just the way life often surprises those who give without expecting anything back. If this story touched your heart or made you believe again in the quiet power of goodness, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Hearts Corner so more souls can feel hope again.